Morning! Now granted, I'm a man on a bike, but I'm also a man on a mission. Today I'm heading to Northern Ireland to visit a sculpture which has spiked my curiosity for a while. Fancy a spin? As a motorcycle enthusiast and a cameraman, I spend a lot of time on the road. I've always been intrigued by these roadside sculptures we have here in Ireland, and I'd regularly stop to capture them with whatever camera I have with me. But it was never going to be long before they started capturing me with their own hidden stories. I'd often find myself on the A1 travelling north and would savour a fleeting glimpse of this one. It is of course a sculpture of a vintage aeroplane, but yet again that familiar voice inside me is asking, what does it signify and why is it here? I've always had an inkling to discover more about this, so I met up with Bill Forsyth, who knows just a thing or two about the man this was built to honour.
Harry Ferguson, an entrepreneur, a schoolboy, a mechanic, a motorcycle racer, an aviation pilot, and most of all a great inventor in terms of agriculture. That sculpture on the A1 carriageway will mean a lot to those interested in aviation because they'll know that Harry was involved. If you mention Harry Ferguson to most people, anywhere in fact, anywhere in GB if you like, or anywhere in Ireland, well, they'll automatically jump on the tractor. Oh, he's the man who designed and invented the tractor. It was probably 1907, 1908. He decided that he would like to maybe build an aircraft and be the first man to fly an aircraft in GB, or at least in Ireland.
Where did he get this idea from?
Well, nobody knows that, but he just decided that he wanted to fly an aircraft and build it, of course, which he did do. And he built the aircraft. Now, albeit the first aircraft wasn't very successful, it didn't lift off the ground, there were many crashes and there were many mistakes, but he persevered with that. And yes, he did master that, and he was the first Irishman to build and fly his own aircraft. And can I also say that he was the first man to take a female up in an aircraft. And if I can also add that if you looked at that aircraft, you would not get into it yourself, and you would certainly not take a female up. But he did, and he did that his first official flight from Hillsborough here, a few miles just from where we stand.
And how long was the flight, and how far was the flight?
Oh, no, the flight was only a few feet off the ground, yes, and it would have been maybe a quarter of a mile or thereabouts. It wasn't lengthy, it wasn't long, but it was a flight. And then, of course, he pursued that, and he flew along the beach at Newcastle, he flew along the beach at McGilligan, up the north coast, and there were many mistakes and what have you, but he realised that, yes, I have won the battle with that. I've made that mark in relation to aviation, and then he dropped that and moved on to something else.
So already in his career, he was a man of huge personal achievement.
Yes.
Tell me then what he went on to do.
Well, after that, of course, then he started to think about agriculture again, and he was aware that his father was still ploughing the fields with horses, and that was hard work. And he decided that, well, if he could build a vehicle, known as a tractor, of course, and that would sort of take the horse out of the field and put the tractor in it, and that would make life a lot easier for the farmer and a lot quicker. But it wasn't an easy journey because some other people had attempted this, didn't work that terribly well. Certainly when they would apply an implement to the rear of the tractor, it didn't seem to work. The tractor went up at the front, he lost traction, he lost steering. But he pursued this until eventually his claim to fame all came together when he produced what we know as the 3-point linkage, which is a hydraulic system fitted in the back of the tractor, and the more you push an implement down into the ground at the rear, the more the tractor's pushed down at the front. Very clever idea. The tractor you see today, no matter what year it is, no matter who made it, it's a 3-point linkage, and that can't be taken away from Harry Ferguson. Hasn't changed. A sad story is that when he went along to the government here in Northern Ireland, went along to storm it, and said, I want you to give me a factory to build these tractors. At that stage, they didn't see any opportunity there. They didn't see any, they didn't see that going anywhere. And they said no. And sadly, he took himself off to England, and Coventry were the people to build the grey Fergie tractor.
Of course, it wasn't going to be long before the great strides of one entrepreneur were noticed by another. Henry Ford, who was dominating the automobile industry, was keen to be part of the Ferguson success story. So in 1938 they went into business together, producing their innovative line of Ford Ferguson tractors. Unfortunately, this was all done on a handshake agreement, which turned sour less than 10 years later, when Ferguson realised he wanted to claim back full credit for his inventions. After several court cases, the patents were eventually awarded back to Ferguson, along with a mere $9 million for his trouble.
A lot of money.
That's unthinkable.
It's unthinkable. It would build a lot of tractors. it would open a lot of factories, there's no doubt about that. But he had people looking over his shoulder in terms of how to make this happen. He was a great inventor, he was a great engineer, but sometimes he appreciated thoughts from other clever people.
So with a few quid in the bank and a series of bad business decisions behind him, Ferguson knew there was still room for improvement, but wasn't deterred by another collaboration. Partnering with David Brown, who designed the creme de la creme of tractor gearboxes, Ferguson then took that knowledge and joined forces with Canadian company Massey Harris in 1952.
It was this partnership which proved to be the holy grail of a tractor and linkage system, which was both affordable and reliable, but more importantly, effective.
And today, Massey Ferguson remains a dominant global market leader of agricultural equipment, undoubtedly changing the face of agriculture as we know it. But it doesn't stop there.
If that wasn't enough, Harry then decided that he would bring a four-wheel drive system about. And the four-wheel drive system that he brought about was a very clever idea, of course. Now this is back in 1950, where this car was produced four-wheel drive, power steering, a flat twin engine on it, 2.5 twin cam. Too expensive for the farmer. Very, very well put together, great design, a great big farmer's car, too expensive. So the four-wheel drive slipped on then into other vehicles, into farm vehicles and what have you, and it was a great, great device to have about a farm, or in fact for any reason. And then it slipped into car racing. He then brought about a Formula 1 racing car, and it had a title of the P99, a very famous racing car, and it would have been raced at Silverstone in England. And in fact, Stirling Moss was the man to actually road test this car, and this was 1959, 1960. And Stirling Moss did road test it, and then he raced it. But unfortunately, scrutineering stepped in and said, "I'm sorry, but your racing car is winning all the races, lap after lap after lap, because it's four-wheel drive, and the rest are not. So I'm sorry, we can't let you go out with the two-wheel drive cars, because it's not fair."
It sounds like his wings had to be clipped.
Yes, very ahead of himself, and so clever that you know, people had to reel him back in again on certain things that he would like or want to do. That particular four-wheel drive system was unique in itself in terms of traction and what it would put out to each wheel. And there's not a lot of people know this, but Audi Quattro, that was winning every rally and every rallycross in the world, driven by all the very, very clever drivers, is Harry Ferguson's four-wheel drive system.
The four-sprung dirt technique
is Harry Ferguson's four-wheel drive system. He designed that. That is Harry's four-wheel drive. Most people would think that, okay, well, you know, Audi is a great four-wheel drive system. It's Harry Ferguson's.
So the four-sprung dirt technique system was born in Belfast.
Correct. He was a meticulous man. He was a shirt and tie man. You weren't allowed to be late for work. You would have been told off if you're late for work. If you turned up at the factory to build these tractors without a tie on, you would have been questioned. And if you had found an oily rag on the floor, you'd have been told off. And just to mention one thing, if he approached you and seen that you were slightly unshaven at 9 or 10 in the morning, he would have asked you, "What time did you get up this morning, sir?" "I was up at 6 o'clock, Mr. Ferguson." "Well, you get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning and you shave before you come back into work. You obviously shaved before you went to bed. You just get up a bit earlier and you present yourself in my factory shaved." The 3-point hydraulic linkage really is Harry's claim to fame, and that's what he really is famous for. And in fact, most people, yes, would think, "Oh, it's the tractor." No, it's the 3-point linkage on the back of the tractor, but the tractor was still a great invention. It really was. He's a genius. Was a genius, is a genius.
What an incredible legacy. What an incredible man. But what saddens me is how few of us know the hidden stories behind these roadside sculptures of Ireland. The next time you pass this aeroplane sculpture on the A1, tip your hat, because without Harry Ferguson, it's fair to say we would be living in a very different world.